Hellverine, issue number 3 from Marvel Comics. So in the last issue, we had Daken, or Akihiro. I'm going to keep referring to him as Daken just because it's easier for me to pronounce than Akihiro. But we had him going to the greenhouse, which was a base in the Arctic where mutants were hiding out. But unfortunately for them, they unleashed some kind of weird demon. A lot of them got killed, but others were able to make their escape. But the ones who did escape are now going around murdering people all over the world. And it seems to be because they are possessed by Bagra-ghul, or at least something that has a connection to Bagra-ghul. So we see mutants going around like murdering people. Like one of them, he's a subway conductor. He stops the train and murders everyone on the train. Another one seems to be a farmer who killed a bunch of people and are using their corpses as scarecrows. One of them's a chef that's making meals out of a bunch of dead bodies. So Doctor Strange is basically telling Daken, hey, this is what's going on. Some kind of weird hellish altar, and you have to stop it. And only you alone can do it. He doesn't really explain why. He just pretty much says that Daken's the only one that can do it, and he has to do it on his own. He can't do it with any help, which, okay, whatever. It seems like if there's going to be some kind of world-ending threat going around, that maybe you would want to get other people involved to help. But Doctor Strange says that he can't do anything more than that because he's no longer the Sorcerer Supreme. I guess Doctor Doom is now the Sorcerer Supreme. How that happened, I don't know, because I'm not keeping up with the Marvel universe. But so he says that he's going to go to Asgard to gain power so that he can take the mantle back. Meanwhile, he's going to leave a book called the Book of Lamentation. It's an unholy book with a bunch of ciphers in it, and he's going to give that to Daken so that Daken can hopefully make use of it. And then he basically tells Daken, you need to go to the place that hurts you the most. Yeah, but basically he's kind of like being Daken's therapist and saying he needs to man up and deal with this. Daken ends up walking the street with this giant book. And I'm just kind of wondering, one, should you just be walking around with the book out in the rain? If this book is super important, paper and water do not go well together. But two, this is a world where people despise mutants. Not just despise them, but like fear them and go after them and attack them. That's why we had a whole, I guess, events where mutants had their own country or their own like territory. That's why we had in the previous issue mutants hiding out in the Arctic. Was basically because they're like being hunted down. So why is Daken just walking around the street in the rain with this giant glowing book and no one's doing anything about it? People are just like walking by and not bothering him. I don't know. I would think like maybe this dude's immune. There's this strange guy glowing, walking around with a book. Maybe we should do something about it. But whatever. He goes to Japan, where he goes back to his home village, specifically his old house where his mom died. And while there, he sees a photo of Wolverine and his mom. I don't know when Daken was born. Apparently it was a long time ago, because later on we have old people that Daken meets, and he mentions how his mom died before they were even born. So Daken is very old compared to them. So would they have pictures in color back then? Because he's looking at a family portrait that's in color. It just seems kind of weird. So anyways, he sees this giant hole in his house and floorboards with what looks like designs on them. So he's able to put the floorboards together. How these boards are able to just hold up in the air, I don't know. Because you can clearly see this is a hole. This is a big giant hole. And yet he's just able to lay the boards over the hole and the boards don't fall through or anything like that. Doesn't really make sense, but whatever. So he's able to create this symbol, and that's when he gets captured. And he gets captured by a bunch of old people. They're residents of the village. They're wary of him. He tries to explain who he is, but this is like back before their time. Like I said before, his mom died and all that stuff before these people were even born. So they don't know if he's telling the truth or not. But they basically explain to him like what's going on. That apparently there was this man in a red cloak, and people don't remember seeing him except out of the corner of their eye. And this man went to Daken's mother's house, and there were like some flashing lights. He did something. And then we see a flashback where we see the dude in the red cloak putting down the symbol, and then something comes out of it. And after that, children started disappearing. They disappeared on their walks. They disappeared from their homes. And Daken is looking through his book, and he discovers a symbol. And he realized that the symbol basically kind of means defiler. And he explains that when something bad happens, it leaves a stain on the world. And this magic uses that stain to create a creature from it. And I'm like, you know what? That's a really cool idea. Because this is a I'm sure other countries do it too. Because I know Japan has a thing where like, people who die with a lot of strong negative emotions kind of leave like a mark at their place of death, like a stain. Or at least it's used a lot in Japanese horror movies, specifically ghost stories and things like that. I don't know if it's an actual like belief or not, but it's something that's used a lot in Japanese horror. I like the fact that we're taking that idea and now we are doing spells so that those stains, these spells are able to create monsters out of them. Like that's a really cool idea. I really like that premise. And I'm going to stop here. I don't want to spoil everything. But I'll say this. I'll say the writing isn't too bad. I mean, there are points that I nitpicked in this video. You know, like him walking in the rain with the paper book and people not doing anything about him. Or the hole in the floorboards just magically being able to levitate on this hole without falling through. But that's just kind of like a nitpick. I like a lot of these ideas here. Like the fact that there's like a Japanese village where kids are going missing. And it seems to have some kind of connection to Dakin. The fact that there's this, like where tragedy happens, where rage happens, where basically negative emotions are at their strongest. It leaves a stain behind. And there's someone making monsters out of those stains. Like, that's a really cool idea. I will just say that I'm not the biggest fan of the artwork. The artwork just feels weird. Like, it feels like something that I would read from, like, a Zanscope comic rather than a Marvel comic. And this is just my theory. I have no idea. But I'm wondering if the artist is using, I don't want to say 3D assets, but like maybe he's using photos or something. The reason why I say this is that the images seem very, very static. Every single panel seems very, very static. Like it doesn't seem like there's really much emotion. Even when characters are walking, it doesn't really seem like they're walking. It seems like they're just kind of posing. When characters are jumping or leaping, it doesn't look like they're jumping or leaping. It looks like they're posing. So yeah, basically everything seems very flat, very static, very much like everything's being posed. Even like the so-called action scenes, though there's really not any in this issue, there's no like kinetic energy to them, if that makes any sense. Everything just feels very emotionless. It feels very much like we're taking poses from pictures and then just kind of tracing over them. So not necessarily 3D assets, but maybe that is the case, but more so like we're just grabbing a bunch of photos and we're just tracing over the photos. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that that's what it looks like because everything looks very, very flat. And that there's no motion to them. Yeah, that to me kind of hampers some of this story. So those are kind of like my thoughts on Hellverine. A lot of really good ideas. Some of the ideas aren't really fully executed. I talked about that in the last issue. Like I thought the last issue had like a really cool idea and it just kind of got rushed. I'm hoping that this idea with the stains and monsters being born from them doesn't get rushed because that's a really cool idea and I want to see that being executed to its fullest potential. So yeah, this feels like one of those where there's a lot of good ideas, the execution isn't always there, and the artwork doesn't really help with the story. It kind of hampers it in my opinion. But that's how I feel about it. Tell me what you think. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.